Welcome back, Exiles. It's Naidra. Today, I'm going to show you guys the second version of my Lightning Spear Primal Strikes build, which of course has been a lot of fun to play. I absolutely love this build. I do plan to put a third build out there sometime in the next couple of weeks. This one's going to be a little bit more expensive than the previous build and also the one that we're doing today. But I figured by this point, you guys are probably starting to get a little bit more rich in the game. And so you probably can afford to start using builds like what we're going to be putting out. And so for today, I'll go ahead and show you guys this. I will say, despite all of the DCs and despite all of the times that I've died because my game has crashed and I can't alt F4 out fast enough, the only thing that's been keeping me going really is this specific build, this character. It's been a lot of fun to play. So again, today I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly what this can do and what the updates are in comparison to the previous video that we did. And before we dive in, if you guys have not yet subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to do so below. Also, we've got our merch store attached to our page as well, so feel free to go ahead and check that out. That is the best way that you can support us. With that said, let's go ahead and dive in and take a look and see exactly what this build can do. Alrighty, so for the purpose of this test, we've jumped into a T15 map. It's pretty juicy and it also is a corrupted one, so it should be fun and a good way to show you guys what this can do. Similar to our last build, we're primarily really just going to be using Lightning Spear a majority of the time. That should be able to clear the room. As you can see on our bar, we do have Primal Strikes on here as well. Our Primal Strikes we're rarely going to be using, but this is especially helpful when we're going up against bosses. So the idea with this is that we get our boss electrocuted and shocked, and then we could just take them down really quick by using Primal Strikes. This does a huge amount of damage when the enemies are shocked, so it's really good to have. However, if your enemies are not electrocuted, we try not to get too close because this build still is a little bit squishy. We're not getting one-shotted like we were in the past, but we are still going to be pretty squishy, so we want to try to avoid taking any damage if possible. So what we're going to do here is if you're going up against just a regular monster, you're just going to use your Lightning Spear. If you're going up against rare monsters, then you may want to use your Barrage and also your Sniper's Mark. You probably won't need to use both of them. I do like to start it off with Stormlance. Stormlance actually does a huge amount of damage and takes out a lot of enemies before we even reach them. But a majority of the time, we're just going to be using our Stormlance and also our Lightning Spear. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and find a group of monsters. Like I mentioned, we're going to throw out our Stormlance. That's just to kind of get things started. And then we'll go ahead and throw out our Lightning Spear, which will clear pretty much everything. Just for the effects, I do like to throw on our Barrage as well. But most of the times, like I mentioned, you're going to be able to clear them with just a one quick shot without having to really power up your attacks. So let's see if we can get a couple more groups in here before we go back to our hideout and see exactly what it is that's making this function. And again, like I mentioned, this is a T15 map, and we can just easily walk through all of this without being in any danger really at any time. Bosses go down really quickly with this build too. It's super easy to use. And unlike some of the other builds, we're not button mashing here, so it is quite enjoyable to be able to play this without having to worry about pushing every single button before you actually use your main attack. And for the purpose of the demo, we'll just go ahead and go over to one of these rare monsters here. Alrighty, here we are. And boom. We may have had Barrage on, but we definitely did not use Sniper's Mark with that one. We just threw out the Lightning Spear and we were able to pretty much just one-shot him. And I think we've got another one up here that looks like it's pretty close by. So let's go ahead and give that one a test as well. Oh, there he is. Yeah. So really fun, really easy to play. And also, like I mentioned, you're really not in any real danger here. This build is more expensive than the last build that we posted, as we do have a couple of uniques going on here, but it's still relatively easy to get. And honestly, you've probably already found most of these items anyway, so it should be really easy to put together. So that being said, let's go back to our hideout and see exactly what's making this work. Alrighty, so first, let's go ahead and start off with our equipment. So starting off with our weapon, naturally, we're going to be using the Tangle Tongue Forked Spear. This one is good, really powerful, regardless of the amount of physical damage that this is doing. This is what really makes this build come to life. The Forked Strikes are just absolutely everything. So you definitely need to have a Tangle Tongue. You want to try to get one that's got the highest amount of critical strike chance with this. The 19 to 20% range is going to be good. This one is a pretty good version, but you can get a better one. And of course, we veiled it. We do want to try to boost this up as much as we possibly can, but we didn't really have much luck with that. Now for the runes, we are using the vision rune so we can get some additional accuracy rating. For our gloves, which is our second unique that we're using here, we are using Kitoko's. This is what really allows us to get a lot of that electrocution going, and this is what lets us get close to bosses when we try to use our Primal Strike. So really good to have. You don't have to use these, but if you're using the combination of both Lightning Spear with Primal Strikes, this is something that's really going to help you out a lot. And then for the runes, I just slapped on some storm runes. This is what's allowing me to get to the maximum resistance for lightning, and pretty much all of my other resistances are maxed out as well. For our first ring, we are using an amethyst ring. The purpose of this is we were desperately struggling with our chaos resistance, and this is what's helping us really bring that up. So really good way to go. Now we do want to have something that's got evasion rating on here. That's really going to be helpful. If you can get accuracy rating on here too, that would be great. The maximum mana has also been helpful, so that's good. You don't need the additional mana, but it is something that is helpful to have. The rarity of items found, you don't need that at all, but it is helpful when you are out there trying to farm for some better equipment. Now, what's really helpful with this is the additional attributes that we're getting. We're getting some good elemental resistance to all of our elements, and it's got pretty high cold resistance as well. So we want to focus on evasion rating. We want to try to get some attributes, and then elemental resistance. The more we can get of that, the better it's going to be. Next up, we've got our helmet. For our helmet, we are using something that's got high evasion rating, and we want to have some energy shield as well. If you'd rather go armor instead of energy shield, that is absolutely fine. In fact, that is something I'm planning on transitioning to myself, just to test out the defensiveness and to see if it'll resolve a little bit of that squishiness. But for now, the energy shield has been very helpful. We also want to have accuracy rating on here too. That is super helpful, and the max life has also been super helpful as well. Now, the star of this specific item is the critical hit chance that we're getting. This is a critical hit build, so it is really, really helpful to have some additional critical hit chance coming from our helmet. And then, of course, the more resistances you can get on here, the better. Now, for the rune, I am using something that's giving me +5 to all elemental resistances. If you're finding that your other elements are good, but you're struggling more so with the chaos resistance, then I might throw on something that's going to give you more to just chaos resistance specifically. But this is what's well rounding this build. And then for our chest armor, we are using a layered vest. We want to have something that's got high evasion rating if possible. And then if you can get something that's got armor on here, that would be absolutely amazing. But the other thing that's really good about this specific item is we've got high spirit +50, which is helpful, especially in making sure that we can use our beast in conjunction with Wind Dancer, Herald of Thunder, and all of those other passives that we've got going on here. And then we've got some decent resistances on here as well. So this is a pretty good item, but there definitely is some room for improvement here as well. Now for our runes, here's where we're getting some additional chaos resistance with the Core of Takati. And then we also are using a storm rune on here as well for that maxed out lightning resistance. And we'll take a look at the stats in just a little bit here so you guys can see exactly where we land once we've got all of these items together. Now then, for our belt, we are using the Inferno clasp. The purpose of this is it's giving us some armor, and also it's giving us some additional strength. It is helpful to have that +4 to maximum fire resistance, and the 30 to fire resistance is also really good too. Now, you absolutely don't need to have this. I have played around with the belt and I've tried out a couple of different options, but this one seems to be helpful because we are getting additional armor with this as well. And also, if you can get one that's got more charm slots, I think that's going to be really helpful as well. The other belt that I was playing around with, which also was actually a lot of fun to play with, was the Headhunter Heavy Belt. This has 2 charm slots, but I believe this one you can get 3 as well. The maximum dexterity and the maximum strength was also really helpful, but the thing that we're going for here is the additional modifiers that we're getting for 20 seconds when we kill a rare monster. Now, the issue with this does not help you when you're going up against a boss. This is just going to be helpful when you're going up against rare monsters, but it is a lot of fun to be able to take on those additional modifiers and really gives you a different spin of what this character really can be like. But again, this is something that I found to be not quite as helpful as having the Inferno clasp. You could always go for a regular belt too, but the additional maximum fire resistance and also that additional armor, like I mentioned, is really helpful. So it's up to you which way you want to go, but ultimately the Inferno clasp is what's been the most helpful for me so far. And then next up for our amulet, we did switch over to the Beacon of Aziz. This is really helpful, especially because once again, we are a crit build. We're getting quite a bit of spirit from this, and also ignoring those elemental resistances with our critical hits is what allows us to one-shot a lot of our enemies, making this so much easier. So this is one of those things that I would say I absolutely would recommend having when you're using this build. As you guys noticed with my previous video, you don't necessarily need this, but it is extremely helpful to have. And again, we do need quite a bit of spirit with this build, so this is a really good way to go. Now, we did anoint our overwhelming strikes with this. I think for a lightning build, this is probably the best way to go. Plus, again, we are getting a lot of critical hit chance and also critical damage bonus with this as well. For our second ring, we are using an unset ring. In order to be able to have enough slots for us to use this build to the fullest, we did need to have this specific item. Now, in addition to the extra slot that we're getting, the cold damage is great, but not necessary. The accuracy rating is really helpful. Again, if you can get some kind of evasion rating with it too, would be really good also. We've also got plus 13 to all elemental resistances, and we're getting some fire and chaos resistance with this too. So pretty well-rounded ring. This is something that I do need to work on a little bit more and increase the quality of, but overall, this is something that is really helpful and also relatively cheap to get. For our boots, so we've made a change for our boots. We were using unique boots previously, which really helped us with shocking the ground, and it also helped with the Herald of Thunder. But because we're using this for high tier mapping, and also we're using this for doing things like breaches and all of that other good stuff, we did need some increased movement speed. And so something like this, where we've got 30% increased movement speed, is super helpful. We've got some evasion rating on here, a little bit of life, and then we've also got some chaos resistance on here, which is really, really helpful. And for the rune, we did use an iron rune for this. We are getting some evasion rating for this, so it is really helpful to get that additional 25% on top of that as well. There are a few different ways you can go with the boots, but again, primarily what we want is movement speed, we want evasion rating, and then we want resistances, but specifically we have to have chaos resistance on here so that we can maximize on that. And then lastly, for our shield, we are using the same buckler we were using before. The reason we're still using this is it's got some good block chance, and then it's got pretty high evasion rating as well. And then we've got 3 different elemental resistances on here. So that's really, really helpful. What we're missing from here is some additional armor. So that's the goal for the next shield that we put on here, is exactly what we've got going on here, but we want to try to get some additional armor too. That really is going to help out with damage reduction, and that's what's making us a little bit squishy right now. For the runes for this one, we did a storm rune, and we also have an iron rune as well. And then for our charms, since we only have 1 charm slot, we are using an antidote charm. Unfortunately, there's not a better way to be able to resist against poison, and so this I find to be extremely helpful. All right, so with that, we don't have any secondary weapons going on here, so we don't have to worry about that, but we'll go ahead and take a look at our skill tree next. Alrighty, so for our skill tree, you can see that we have our spear stab slotted into one of our skill slots here, and the reason we have that up there is because it is something that's nice to use if for some reason you run out of mana, and it actually does quite a bit of damage. We're really not using this almost at all, but if you do find yourself close to a mana drain enemy and you just don't have any other options, this is something that would be helpful, but again, not necessary. Now then, we are using Infused Weapon with this build. Specifically, this is extremely helpful once you've gotten this on your Ascendancy. Now, for those of you that don't know, the slots on here will unlock as you continue to level up, with your final slot unlocking at level 90. And then for the specific support gems that we're using for this, first, we've got Concentrated Effect. We've also got Elemental Focus. We're using Neural Overload. Of course, we've got Overcharge on here, and finally, Culling Strike. For our Herald of Thunder, we are going to pair this up with Innervate. Then we've got Blind. We're going to be using Lightning Exposure, and finally Electrocute. For our Barrage, we've got Premeditation. We've also got Perpetual Charge. And then lastly, we've got Inhibitor. Moving on down, so Conductivity is one of the new things that we are using with this build. Because we are a lightning build, this actually has been really helpful. This is not something that I use against regular monsters or even rare monsters. This is something that I primarily only am using against bosses. The frustrating part about this is between this, then we've got our Sniper's Mark, and we've got our Barrage. It takes a little bit to set up when you're going against the bosses. However, once you've got all of those three things in place and you shoot out your Lightning Spear, you're going to be doing a huge amount of damage, and it's extremely likely that you're going to electrocute your enemy as well, which gives you an opportunity to jump in with your Primal Strikes and finish them off. For our conductivity, we are pairing this up with Focused Curse. We've also got Heightened Curse, and finally we've got Cursed Ground. And then for the star of our show, we've got Lightning Spear. Now we do have ways to increase this DPS higher than where we're currently at right now. However, by doing so, that makes us even more squishy. And so we really want to make sure we're getting a good balance of being tanky-ish and also doing enough DPS so that you're not dying frequently and also clearing your maps pretty quickly. For our Lightning Spear, we are pairing this up with Fork naturally. We've also got Martial Tempo. Next up, we're using Volt. We've got Twofold. And then finally, last but not least, we've also got Longshot. Now, if you're not quite at the same level that I am, when you are setting this build up, you really just are going to make sure that you're putting in the support gems in the exact order that we've got here. If you change the order, that's fine. It'll still work, but this is going to be the most effective as you're also leveling it up as well. Next up, we've got our Storm Lance. For Storm Lance, we are pairing this up with Acceleration. Next up, we've got Scattershot, Primal Armament, Blindside, and finally Rising Tempest. For our Combat Frenzy, we're going to pair this guy up with Profusion. We've then got Cannibalism and lastly Precision. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a few persistent buffs, and this is why we're going to need a high amount of spirit for this. We're using Combat Frenzy with this build. We're using Wind Dancer. We've got our Companion. And on top of that, we've also got our Herald of Thunder. So between all of those things, that takes up a huge amount of spirit. As you can see, my spirit currently is at 194, which I think is pretty high. But even still, if we can get more spirit, there's other things that we can work in here that would be extremely helpful to us as well. But right now, this has been really, really good and really well balanced. All right, so speaking of which, Wind Dancer is our next skill that we have on here. We do not need any support gems with this, as it isn't really that helpful. And also keep in mind, all of the skills that we've got here, when you guys have a chance to, make sure you use a Gem Cutter's Prism on it. By using the Gem Cutter's Prism, that is going to increase the quality of your skills, and oftentimes it's either going to help with damage or it's going to help in other ways to make the skill a little bit more superior. And then next up, we are using Companion with this. The ones that I find to be the best are either going to be the Quadrilla or the Alpha Primate. Now, this one specifically, I am loving the most because we're getting some haste aura from this, which increases our movement speed, so really helpful. This also does explode nearby corpses. I would love to replace that for all damage shocks because this is a lightning build. All damage shocks would be the absolute best way to go and the most helpful for us specifically. We do have hasted on here, which is amazing. And I say that because if you have a beast that's a mile behind you, it's going to be really challenging for you to be able to take advantage of the different modifiers it has. And we really can't slow down while we're going through maps. We want to try to do it as quickly as possible. Now, those slower beasts can be helpful against bosses, but most of the time you need something that's going to be able to keep up with you. And if possible, preferably go ahead of you. That way it can tank some damage for you as well. And then lastly, we're getting stuns from this too, which is also really good for our build. Now for our companion, we are pairing this up with Loyalty. We're also going to use Elemental Army. We've got Last Gasp. And then finally, we're using Minion Mastery so we can get an additional +1 to our companion skill. Next up, we've got Sniper's Mark. Now, this one we're not using very frequently. Again, this is another one of those things where we're only mainly going to be using against bosses. Sometimes we'll use it against a rare monster if they are a little bit more challenging to take down. But oftentimes, we really don't need to use it as it does slow us down a little bit. Now, for this guy, we are pairing it up with Ingenuity. We also have Inspiration. And finally, Arcane Tempo. And then last but not least, we've got our Primal Strikes. We only need 2 support gems on this one, and that's going to be Lightning Infusion and Crescendo. So that's what our skills look like. Before we jump into the passive skill tree, I do want to show you guys the stats here really quick. So as you guys can see, our biggest area of opportunity right now is going to be our armor. That's going to help us with our damage reduction. But our evasion rating is at 69%, which is decent. and our block is at 33%, which definitely could use a little bit more of that too, but this is somewhat balanced with the exception of our armor. Now looking at our resistances, we've got everything perfectly maxed out, so everything's over 75%, with our fire resistance being at 79%, and that's because of the belt that we're using, which gives us +4 to maximum fire resistance. Now then, looking at everything else here, just gonna quickly scroll down so you guys can see. Would love to have some better evasion rating here too, but I think that's something that we're planning on including on our next build as we continue to get better equipment as well. Now then, for our passive skill tree, we'll start off with our Ascendancy. For the Ascendancy, this stayed the same as our previous video, so we're going to go ahead and take Elemental Damage up to Elemental Infusion, and this is what grants us the Infused Weapon skill. We'll then take Skill Speed along with Predatory Instinct, and then we'll move on down where we're going to take Accuracy, taking it up to Critical Strike, and then finishing it up at Penetrate up here at the top. And then for the actual skill tree itself, we are going to start off with attack damage going all the way down to Primal Instinct. We'll make our way down to Eagle Eye. As we continue making our way down, we'll then go down and we'll make sure we grab Cooked. And then we'll make our way up where we're going to grab Elemental Damage and Shock Chance, and then make our way over to the right where we're going to grab Surging Currents. Now, the additional damage penetration is really helpful, but the additional dexterity we're getting from this is also helpful for an Amazon build, so these are great. We'll then make our way back down, where we'll stop on the right-hand side to grab Escape Velocity. And then we'll grab our very first jewel, which this one is a decent one. Lightning damage is going to be great. Critical hit chance for attacks is going to be amazing. Increased attack damage is good. And of course, duration of shock, ignite, and chill is also something that's helpful. But the primary ones we want to focus on is lightning damage and critical hit chance. And then we'll continue to make our way down where we will go up and grab Maiming Strike, and then make our way over to the right, and we'll go ahead and start by making our way down, where first we're going to grab Acceleration. We'll then come down and also grab Falcon Dive. And then we're going to grab all of these nodes up here with the exception of Spear Attack Speed. We can do with that one, and primarily because we need to use this point elsewhere. Otherwise, if we had enough points, we would always want to come back and grab this as well. We'll then continue making our way down where we're going to grab this additional jewel slot down here. And similar idea here, we want to focus on something with critical hit chance. If you can get evasion rating, accuracy rating, also really great ways to go as well. But critical hit is going to be our focus on as many of these as we possibly can get. And then we'll go ahead and make our way on up where we're going to stop and grab Electrocution. Now, if you'd like to focus more on your companions, you could always grab this Trusted Kinship node here. This would allow you to have an additional companion if you have the spirit to be able to support that. We could take out a couple of our other persistent buffs, but then that would imbalance us a little bit too much. And so I don't recommend it, but if you really want to, this is an option for you as well. We'll then continue to make our way on up where we'll go over to the left and we'll grab Enhanced Reflexes for some additional evasion rating and also some additional dexterity can't hurt. On the right hand side, we're going to grab Heart Stopping, Struck Through, and finish it up here with Heartbreaking. And then we'll continue making our way on up where we'll grab this additional jewel once again. So for this one, we've got some projectile damage, we've got some elemental damage, and some increased attack speed. There's some opportunity for this one to be a little bit better, but we did get some additional lightning resistance from this too when we hit this with a veil. And then continuing our way on up, we're going to stop on the left-hand side where we're going to grab Exposed to the Storm, and we're also going to grab the Wild Storm node. And then we'll continue moving up and make our way over to the left where we're going to stop for our next jewel that we have here, which has some additional attack damage. This one allows us to not be hindered as well, which is great. Then we've got a couple of other things that are not quite that helpful, but also still okay to have. This is one that's probably going to be the first one to get replaced once we get something better, but still decent for now. We'll then make our way on up where we'll stop at True Strike. We'll also grab for the Jugular. And we'll finish this one up here with Deadly Force. We'll then make our way on back down where we'll head over to the left, stopping for Moment of Truth. We're also then going to grab Crashing Wave, going on down to Flow Like Water. We'll go on up and grab Mindful Awareness before we finish up our passive skill tree at Step Like Mist. So with that said, that brings us to the conclusion of our passive skill tree for now. We are intending to go over to evasion and energy shield once we level up a few more times. So we'll stop and we'll grab these nodes here. And then we're also going to eventually grab these nodes up here too, which should significantly help with our evasion rating and also with our energy shield. So that should help also balance us out and make us a little bit more tanky as well. With that said, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And until next time, Exiles.